when Ken brought me up, I said, go in there and see if Eddie's there, because if he's not, I'm not going in. And I said, and of course, check to see if Jackie's there, because if Jackie's not here, I'm shutting the whole thing down. And I said, and then Leona, of course, because
we're here and it's going to be the greatest.
Look at you, Mr. Positive. It is a beautiful day. Man, I'm so happy. Are we done with the cold yet? I'm just like, I'm just, what is today, the 7th? I'm like, come on. Oh, yeah? I think Judah's up there. I don't know, what's Judah doing in Nashville? I don't even know. That's because he's posted some picture of snowplows. You know, I still have not seen a snowflake this year. Like, every time I turn on the news, they keep showing all around town. I think, not a flake. I feel like it's like this major, like I'm being punked. Everybody keeps talking about the snow. I'm like, what snow are y'all talking about? I don't see it. Not in my midtown. I must live in another dimension or something. Not me. I'm not doubting that you did. I'm just saying I have not seen any. I mean, I watched the news, especially the day when they were on there for like 3 hours, and I was like watching the news. And I'd look out the window, like, what are you talking about? I don't see it. Apparently. Anyway, look around. Did you already meet somebody you haven't met before? Please say hello if you haven't. What did your granddaughter's name? Kenya. So glad to have everybody here today. I know a lot of people. A lot of people couldn't be here today, and many people forgot to spring forward, but you did. We're happy to have Jaquita here from Texas, who is Brenda's daughter. Many of you remember Meshawn and Jaquita, who are care pastors of ours. And Kenya, we're glad that you're here. And Sandra's niece, cousin, Tony, which, by the way, last Sunday was Sandra's birthday, and I failed to mention it because it's not in my Facebook feed. So happy birthday. I believe it was an excellent one. It was not my intention to overlook your birthday by any means, but we're glad that you're all here. And so when it's the Spring Forward one, which is it? Is it so people will think it's, how does that work?
You lose an hour.
I know that, but I'm talking about, I understand the concept of it. I'm trying to think, how does it affect people coming to church? Do they? Okay, that's what I'm asking. So this is the one that like an hour later, people come in and go, okay. That's what I'm asking.
Nobody forgot, but it's a good experience.
All right, and on that note, it's a beautiful day. It's a great day to be alive. Our God, our Creator, has made a beautiful world that we enjoy, and we're excited about the sunshine. We're excited about these clear blue skies. We're excited about spring. At least it's within reach, and we're excited about the resurrection. We're excited that we've lived to see another March. We've lived to see another springtime. There are many of you that doctors told you you'll never see another spring, but you're here. You've seen it, and it's a reminder to all of us. When you start yesterday, we started seeing buds coming on some of these trees already, and it's just a sign of life. The law of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus makes me free from the law of sin and death. We are alive in Him. Christ is all and is in all. It's a great day to be alive. We are in agreement. We imagine great possibilities today. Anything can happen today, and we move it toward good. The arc of it bends toward good and to blessing and to positive results. Our intentions are that the heavens are open today, and His will is done on earth as it is in heaven. In Jesus' name, everybody said, Amen. Just remain standing for a moment. I was so pleased with our choice for Artist of the Month this month. It was right on time. He was a big hit, and didn't even realize how in the flow he was. And he told me afterwards. He said, I never thought about those lyrics that I wrote having all that meaning. And I said, well, I hope I didn't embarrass you referring to you that much. It's just I love confirmation, and I always wait for it. Like, where's my confirmation? And there was a lyric he said in that song that I didn't even know he wrote that was exactly what I was teaching on. And I love that synchronicity. I love that flow. I love that confirmation. And he's just talented. Whether he's in the flow or not, we like him just because he sings good. And we're not sure if he's a white man or a black man or a young man or an old man. He seems to have channeled all age groups, all ethnicities. And I'm sure he's got something good for us today. Would you once again welcome Mr. Marshall Ruffin? Marshall! Come in. Do your thing. Glad you're here. If you want to see the you have to tell them or they won't hear.
Oh, there was a woman in the Bible days. She'd been sick so very long. Well, she heard that Jesus was passing by, and she joined the gathering throng of sheep while she was pushing her way through. Somebody asked her, "What are you trying to do?" She said, "If I just could touch the hem of your garments, I know that I'll be made whole right now." Well, she cried, "Oh Lord, oh Lord." She cried, "Oh Lord." Yes, she cried, "Oh Lord. I just could touch the hem of your garments, I know that I'll be made whole right now." Well, she spent her money here and there until she had no more to spare. Well, the doctors, they did all that they could, but their medicines weren't no good. When she touched him, the Savior didn't see. Oh, but he cried out, "Somebody touched me." Yes, 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 yes. If I just could touch the hem of your garments, I know that I'll be made whole right now. Well, she cried, "Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord." She cried, "Oh Lord, I just could touch the hem of your garments, I know that I'll be made whole right now." Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land I heard of once in a lullaby. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, you know the sky is blue, and every little dream you care to dream will surely come true. Yeah. Someday I wish upon a star and wake up when the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops high above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Oh, somewhere over the rainbow, sky is blue, and every little dream you care to dream will surely come true. Yes, yes, yes. Well, she spent her money here and there until she had no more to spare. And the doctors, they did all that they could, but her medicines were no good. Yeah, well, she touched him, the Savior didn't see. Oh, but he cried out, somebody touched me. He said, if I could just touch the hem of your garments. She said, if I just could touch the hem of your garments. Oh, she said, if I just could touch the hem of your garments, I know that I'd be made whole right now. They say everything can be replaced. They say that distance is not near. Oh, but I remember every face. Of every man who put me here. I see my light come shining from the west down to the east. Any day now, anyway now, I shall be released. They say that every man needs protection. They say that every man must fall. Oh, but I swear, I see my reflection somewhere above this wall. standing here in this lonely crowd. Well, there's a man who swears he's not to blame. Oh, and all day long I hear him shouting out loud. He cries, my God, I have been framed, and I see my light come shining. Oh, from the west down to the east, and any day now. Oh, anyway now, I shall be released any day now, anyway now. I shall be released.
Marshall Ruffin. Wow. Oh, Marshall, I don't know if you know what the word anointed means, but look it up. You are that. First of all, that's my favorite Bob Dylan song, I Shall Be Released. I love that song. And then to put the hem of his garment together with Over the Rainbow, that's just brilliant. Oh, wow. That's what, you know what I love about this whole thing? Y'all can sit down. What I love about, obviously, you know, Chandra was our first artist of the month, and Paulette was here in January, and several of you have done different things. But I never tell anybody what to do. I just do whatever you want to do. Eddie did it for us in November, and it's amazing. The flow just amazes me, how people just instinctively know the right things to choose. I never give anybody parameters. Even with Jonah here the other day, he said, is it okay if I don't do gospel music? So I want to do a couple of love songs that I've written. I said, yeah, that's fine. And it was amazing to me how many people told me, you have no idea what a confirmation that was. And so I just love that whole thing. Sorry I forgot to run the opening video, but I think they've seen it. So we'll just give the... Well, that's in the presence of the Holy Ghost, but thank you. I learned it from him. Oh, man. Marshall, I just want to sit here and hear you sing for another 30 minutes is what I want. You have a website that says where you're appearing. See, I love getting connected with a lot of these young artists around this area. I just love it. I love church people, obviously, but and I think you play in a church somewhere sometimes. But I don't know. I love this younger generation that really has old school appreciation for the American songbook and the great hymns and especially the great gospel song. That was cool to do a turntable up there. It was just like, oh, they're just so cool. I just love it. I still don't have a date for when we would do the makeup thing for the King Center. Let me just give me a couple of weeks. 'Cause I want to do it when it's. I'm sure we're past the cold, and we can walk around and take pictures and do all that kind of stuff. So just hang on, which means we might not. I'm not sure we'll have a March event. I'll let you know. But I like doing them, and when the weather gets warmer, we may do more than one in a month because it's just fun. If everybody can't make it, it's fine, but it's a lot of fun. I love showing you Atlanta, and I love showing you historical places. And yesterday we walked all over. we walked really kind of far away, and I had to speak at. Y'all remember Rebecca Beck? They have a church in Douglasville called Church of the Misfits. Well, I was speaking there last night, and I looked at my watch. I said, "Ken, it's like 5 o'clock, and we're supposed to be there like at 6:30 in Douglasville." You cannot believe how fast we walked. I got my cardio in, let me tell you, trying to get, and we got there in plenty of time. But it was a really interesting, eclectic group of people, as you can imagine. If Terry and Beck are your pastors, you can only imagine. But it was very, very cool. But the point is just being able to get out and walk again. I was seeing, not just for the cardio, not just for weight loss, but I saw something this week about people who walk. It's amazing. I mean, it decreases your chances for breast cancer. It's amazing the things that walking does. I guess it's just because it aligns your body up and gets you, even more than running, because running has its benefits, but it also does a lot of wear and tear on your body. But walking is just, it's good for your head. It's good for depression. It's good for any number. Let's go take a walk right now. Walk once around the block, and we'll come back in. But we do have a outreach of the month, and it's St. Jude's Children's Hospital. Some of you remember Danny Thomas, Make Room for Daddy, who's Marlo Thomas's father. He started this back in the 60s, and it's a hospital that what? Oh, I thought you were telling me something. It's a hospital that it's for children. Well, St. Jude in the Catholic Church is the patron saint of hopeless causes, and it's a hospital for children with incurable diseases like cancer and that sort of thing. And they don't pay a penny. It's completely supported by contributions, which is amazing. So this month we're going to make a contribution to them, and that's where your money doesn't just go to paying the rent here and that kind of stuff. We spread it all around. So we got a little presentation, I think, to show you about St. Jude's. Do we have something?
Every single one of his medical bills, everything is just all taken care of.
We have phenomenal research, outstanding clinical care, and the generosity of public, which allow us to treat patients regardless of what it takes.
At St. Jude, families never receive a bill for treatment, travel, housing, or food, because the only thing a family should worry about is helping their child live.
Because of you.
Gracias a ti.
Because of you.
There is St. Jude. Donate now at stjude.org.
All right, thank you. That's good. If you recognize that voice, her voice is a little lower now than it was in the 60s, but that's, I don't remember raspy voice, that girl. I love that girl. Okay. We come into agreement for revelation. We speak into this atmosphere. Let there be light. I love doing this, but I love what I'm talking about this month, I think, more than any other topic, really. Of course, next month I'll probably say the same thing about that one. We're talking about creating with God, and specifically transforming chaos into cosmos. You're familiar with Genesis 1:1. King James says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Verse 2 in the King James says, "And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God," I think 16:11 says brooded or hovered over. I can't remember which word exactly there was translated. Let me tell you something about translation, because I want to show it to you once again in the concordant literal version. Is anybody here a translator? Has anybody ever done that before, like communicative? Do you do that, Crystal? Well, translation, all translation is somewhat of an interpretation, because when you hear a word in somebody's language, you still have to decide. It still has to go through your brain and decide, well, I could use several words for that. Like I remember years ago I was preaching in Panama, the country of Panama. About 5,000 people there, and had a great interpreter, real sharp guy. He was right with me. And an interpreter, when you're doing that kind of stuff, an interpreter can make or break you, because if they don't get you, if they don't understand the cadence of how you talk, it really becomes laborious. But a good interpreter kind of just disappears. You just, and in a sense, you become one person. Some of y'all remember Enrique that used to be one of our care pastors. He was one of the best interpreters I ever worked with because he knew me so well and he kind of knew how I said things. And he and I, when some of you remember, you went with me to Peru, he and I used to literally become one person while we would do that. Well, this one guy, we were like in a flow, we were in a zone, we were just, there was no error between my English words and his Spanish words. It was just a continual flow of verbiage. Until I said, well, this guy was really cool. And all of a sudden the guy stopped and looked at me and said, I don't understand, what do you mean? I said, he was cool. Well, he didn't understand the concept in American English of what it means to be cool. So I'm in front of 5,000 people, we're having this conversation. I said, and I'm trying to think, how do I explain cool to him? So he thought I meant he was cold. He said, you mean like he was cold, he should wear a coat? I said, no, he was, he was like, he was cool. I'm trying to act it out. I said, and I thought, well, if I say he's hip, then he's going to think about this part of your body. And we just ground down. Like we couldn't get past it. And finally I just said, all right, just scratch that. And he's like, why would, he's thinking, what do you mean scratch? I said, no, I mean, and I was thinking, about interpretation. There's any number of ways you can interpret the same thing. Which is why I use so many different interpretations, because I like different nuanced possible meanings of what a word could mean. Some years ago, we were in Israel. We were doing a thing with the Global Peace Festival, and I was working with imams and rabbis and all. It was like a very ecumenical type thing, and I had done a thing with a very extremely Orthodox rabbi. And we were having dinner one night, and he said, what's amazing to me? He said, at these events, sometimes they'll have you stand up and pray. He said, I've never seen anybody just stand up and start praying like you do. He said, how do you do that? I said, well, I don't know. You just pray. He said, well, from my tradition, we have to read everything exactly as it is written, because we believe that as those words are spoken in that way, it causes something to happen in the heavenlies. And I said, well, I understand that. Which is nearly like the concept of an incantation, you say it a specific way. But I said, the problem is, with Christians, we have a lot of different translations. And I said, you're reading something directly out of the Hebrew, but I'm reading it to a congregation from Hebrew into English or from Greek into English. So it's going through lots of different variations. Like when KFC went to, I think it was China, they had to change finger licking good because there was no way to explain that in Chinese, because it translated as you will chew your fingers off. Well, that's not really, it's not a good slogan, not very appetizing. And so language isn't just a word for word. There's all kinds of, and even now, if somebody says, I need to tell you something, I'm gay, you know what that means. If they had said it 60 years ago, I just want you to know I'm gay, then somebody would have said, well, good, you should be happy. It's a great day to be alive, So, words change. One thing I will say about cool is like one of the only colloquialisms that has survived. It's, beatniks used it, hippies used it, even hip-hop people use it. It's just amazing how it's the one thing that has outlasted groovy and far out and all those, things from my generation. I'm saying all that to say the reason I use so many different translations, and the reason I always refer to King James, is it's not that I think King James is superior in any way. I do not. But it is the one that's you're most familiar with. So I say it as a point of reference so that you'll know, oh, that's what he's talking about, that particular. So you're familiar with, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. If anybody ever sat down and tried to read the Bible from cover to cover, you probably didn't make it, but you at least got those first few verses. It's pretty easy to get through chapter 1. And then you start thumbing through it like, dear God, this is long. And then you find out that a lot of it's repetitive. Like once you get into like First St. Chronicles and First St. Kings, a lot of those stories are recycled. I remember buying Bible tapes for a Catholic friend of mine years ago, and she said, these tapes are defective. I said, why? She said, because these stories about Jesus, they're telling the same thing. I said, well, you know it's 4 Gospels. And she said, well, I never read the Bible. We always had the priest read it to us. She says, I just thought, why do they have to keep repeating this story over and over again? I don't know, lady. That's just the way it works. Give me the Bible tapes back. I said all that to show you once again this verse of Scripture from the Concordant Literal Version, and this is what it says. Verse 1, in a beginning, and that's just, that little phrase is screaming, please expound me. You know, it's like, please talk about me. Because it's not just in the beginning, it's in a beginning. And that's why in quantum physics we hear so much about the multiverse. That's why every decision you make creates a different possibility, a different scenario. But we may talk about that in the future. But in a beginning, created by the Elohim, and that's one of the ways the word Elohim is translated. It's Elohim, Elohim, Allah. In Aramaic, Jesus calls God Allah. Elohim were the heavens and the earth, yet the earth became a chaos and vacant, and darkness was on the surface of the submerged chaos. Yet the spirit of the Elohim is vibrating. This is interesting. This is true both in Hebrew and especially in Greek. There's not a past tense. It's always present tense, which I love that. In other words, in the biblical languages, it's always now. Yet the spirit of the Elohim is vibrating over the surface of the water, and saying is the Elohim, become light, and it is becoming light. All right, what we talked about last week is that God creates the cosmos, and cosmos is the word where we get cosmos, like, you know, there's even a series now about the universe called the cosmos. But it's also where we get the word cosmetic. And that's very interesting because, you know, I used this last week to talk about with ladies that wear makeup. There's all kind of tricks you can do. Like, you know, that sometimes I'm like on Wendy Williams on one of these shows, they'll have a makeup artist and she'll come out and say, if you want bigger eyes, do this. If you want your lips to look different, do this. Or you can make your nose look different. Or it is very interesting how cosmos, in a sense, is cosmos. In other words, you can create a different reality by how you learn. And that's true with your clothes. You know, there's certain clothes you wear. If any of you have ever dealt with your weight, you know vertical stripes make you look one way, horizontal stripes make you look another way. Any of us have ever worried about our weight, always wore a lot of black because, you know, black is slimming. And, you know, and so all those are cosmetic, really illusions. In a sense, you're creating another reality. So the fact that both these words have the same root, I think, is interesting. Also something I'd like to come back and visit in the future. But for our purposes this month, I'm specifically talking about the fact that God speaks to the chaos. And it is a vibrating word, and it says the chaos is becoming light. The thing that so impressed me last week, I asked Marshall to do 2 songs. And when he got through, I said, have you got a third one? And he said, I don't know what to sing. I said, sing that one I saw on YouTube called He's Gonna Light the Way to Heaven. I thought it was an old gospel spiritual. I didn't realize he had written it. And I just liked it. It was just, you know, it's a cool song. But then I got the confirmation, because there's a lyric in there that says, the devil will lead you to the shadows, but you look in and there's a bright light. Something I'm not saying exactly right, but you look into the shadow and you see that's where the light is. And I said, wow, that's amazing. It's exactly what I'm talking about. The reason this is important, and it's kind of the theme I used last month. We talked about Job, how that Job begins as the ultimate victimization story, but it ends as the ultimate story about personal responsibility, because in the beginning it's God and the devil being capricious about Job's life, but at the end of it, God comes and speaks to Job out of the whirlwind, or the better translation is a violent storm, and he says, you can change this. You know, stop worrying about what God and the devil are going to do. I've empowered you to do this. So what it says to us is every storm that happens in your life is trying to tell you something. And the chaos that you encounter is intimidating. When you see chaos, it is the natural instinct, self-preservation, to run away from it. I don't want to deal. What words did Jesus say in the Garden of Gethsemane? If there's any way, let this cup pass from me. In other words, I look at the chaos that's coming, and I can't deal with it. course, he ends with saying, "Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." But it's that human instinct to say, I want to flee pain. I don't want to deal with chaos. I don't want to deal with discomfort. I want everything in life to be exactly as it's supposed to be. And of course, that's what we like, but that's not always the way life works. And so the chaos is supposed to tell you something. When your body starts acting up and not performing the way it's supposed to, you're supposed to find out what's going on. You're not supposed to just pretend like it's not happening. You go to a doctor or you do some research or whatever, and you find out what's happening in my life. Or if you keep having this a cyclical thing in a relationship, why does this thing keep happening? I'm telling you, laws of attraction are working all the time. Can I tell you what's happened to me this week? This is my latest raisinette story. When I was a kid, like back, this would have been the era from maybe 63, 64 through the early 70s, so the bulk of the 60s. Not far from here, right? Just within walking distance from here. And I don't even remember how this happened, but several people in my mom's family lived in different parts of the country, and for some reason they all moved back to Atlanta around the same time, and they all bought houses on the same street. And it was right next to the school that I went to. My cousin Janet went there, my cousin Dana, my cousin Mark. We all went there at different times. LaDonna went there for a while. And so there was in the 60s, I think they were going to put 400 through, and the people in that Inman Park area got a petition against it, and they averted it coming through the Candler Park area. But before they did, they tore down all the houses across the street from us. So I remember seeing a lot of my friends have to move, but when they tore the houses down, I could see my school from my house. And this is the way the street was. There was here was my Uncle Harry and Aunt Myrtle's house, who was my mom's oldest sister. And next to them was my Uncle Donnie and Aunt Joan's house, who was my mom's youngest sister. And next to them, next to Joan's house, was a woman named Lucille. She was what we called in the 60s a spinster aunt. She just lived there by herself. We didn't really know her that well, but she was always a part of my growing up, because we were on that, even when we didn't live there, we were always there, because we would always come back to Atlanta at least once a week. And Lucille was always out watering her yard, and I remember her 1940s looking hair, and that's etched in my memory. All right. Next to Lucille was my grandmother's house. Next to my grandmother's house was my cousin Mark's house, which is my double first cousin. His dad is my dad's brother. His mom is my mom's sister. Next to them, in later years, my cousin Haroline, when she was married, she bought that house. And in the house next to them, we lived there. We only lived there for about 6 months because my dad took a church in Bremen, Georgia. But then we moved back when I was in 7th grade. We lived in Bremen for about 5 years, and we lived around the corner from there. But the point is, we just loved that street. Like when we would pull up there, because I didn't have siblings, so my cousins was real important. So when I'd get there, I would get to everybody. I'd spend the night at Janet's house. I'd spend the night at Mark's house. I'd go to my grandmother's house. It was just like every house was open and welcoming and fun and had kids and color television when we didn't have it. And it was just, I loved North Avenue. And we had a little dog, and his little friend was my grandmother's dog. And like when we would pull up on that street, I opened the door, Dad was running to go see Uncle Harry, and Mom was running to go see Aunt Myrtle, and I was running to go see Mark, and Bambi was running to go see Nina, and we were like, everybody just got out of the car and went to it's like you could pick any house. La 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 la. I love all these houses. I can eat dinner at any of these houses because I'm welcoming all of them, and they're all cooking, and it's like, and my parents could have said at any time, we can't keep you anymore. You're going to have to go live on North Avenue. I would have been like, okay, fine, see ya. I loved it. So years later, Christina, when she was married, they were living in Key West, and when she became single again, she moved up here, and she told me, I'm going to live in Little 5 Points because I want Sophia to go to Mary Lynn. I said, really? Because I went there? She says, you went there? I said, yes, Christina. Don't you remember when y'all were kids, I used to take you over there and show you the street where Aunt Myrtle and Aunt Joan and everybody lived, and we played on the playground. And she says, I didn't even remember that was it. I just wanted her to go there because it's a really good school. So for the last, this is the third year Sophia's there, so I pick her up, and it's amazing when I go over there. It's like every neuropath in my brain leads to bliss. I have nothing but happy memories. Even when we didn't live there, I can remember, I'd be out of school and I'd go with Aunt Myrtle to pick up Janet from school, and I couldn't wait to see her. And it was just like, I just loved it. And I knew all the teachers. And I went in there the other day because I picked up Sophia and I had to go to the bathroom. I walked in. It looks exactly like I remember it. It smells exactly like, it's like that whole area is holy ground to me. I just love it. I took my kids there to play in Candler Park when they were little, and now I take my granddaughter, took them there this week. It was sunny, and it was just, so it's like, I don't know if you have places in your life like that are just full of joy. And now to have come full circle and, be able to, my granddaughters are going there, that's even better. So, this week, Christina has met a young man, and it's kind of happened fast, but I'm good with it, and I've talked to him, and it looks like they're engaged. He's asked her to marry him. And it looks like they're probably going to get married, and it's cool. I mean, it's fast, but they're both adults. They've been through a lot, and we spent about 3 hours with them this week. And tonight, this is amazing. I would have never thought this was happening. I'm going to Christina's mom's house to sort of officially announce the engagement, and I never thought I'd be walking in that house again. So wow. So, interesting stuff. But here's what's really amazing. Christina's looking on Craigslist because they need a bigger place to live because he has a child. Go to Craigslist. First one that comes up is the one house on the street that a family member didn't live in. For years, I'd always said, if we only had somebody that lived in that house, in Miss Lucille's house, then we could say everybody on that street I was related to. They're getting Miss Lucille's house. And they didn't know that was it. I said, you got to be kidding me. The guy's name is Ryan. I said, Ryan, ask if they knew a woman named Lucille. And so he texted me, day before yesterday. And he said, I just put the deposit down. And sure enough, her name was Lucille. She lived there for years. When she died, she left it to this guy, and that's who they're getting the house from. I said, you have got to be kidding. How many thousands of times have I said, if I just had a family member that lived in that little blue house, I could say, everybody on the, wow, this is tripping me out because this is law of attraction that's affecting my kids and my grandkids. This isn't just me. Like, wow, the power of speech is becoming really strong. I got to really watch what I say because I'm having what I say like all the time. And what's that scripture in Amos where it talks about the sower will overtake the reaper? I think it's Amos chapter 9. And in the Amplified Bible, it says things will begin to happen so fast that your head will spin. And so I'm not only seeing things come to pass, I'm seeing them come to pass very quickly. This morning, when I got up, he was making breakfast, and I just turned on the TV, and there was Maleficent was on one of those Showtime channels or whatever. And I'd never seen it, but it's the live action version of the Beauty and the Beast, Disney. And I just saw the one part of it when the baby is born and the three fairies come and they speak. It's technically a blessing or a prophecy over the baby. I give you this so that, I think they gave her different gifts. And then Maleficent is mad because she wasn't invited to the christening of the baby, and so she pronounces this curse over the baby, says you're going to die on your 16th birthday. And it was interesting. I didn't have time to watch it, but I thought, man, that whole concept of speaking over a child or prophesying, or it's so true. I can't tell you how many people I've counseled with over the years that are living out an incantation that some authority figure spoke over them at an early age. That's why it's so important to speak to your child's destiny, because they will become who you say they're going to become. If you keep saying to your kid, you know what, you are never going to amount to anything, guess what? They are never going to amount to anything, at least not in your reality. So this whole thing with the little blue house, it's just, it's a trip. And I've never been inside that house. Of all the years that I went to every house in that street, that's the one I never went in. And I don't know, it's just amazing to me that all these things are swirling around and happening, and the universe is so attentive to the words we say. What's that got to do with creating cosmos out of chaos? All right. The creation comes when the Spirit speaks the vibrating word. This universe is built on words. Everything that happens by words. Everything that you are today is a product of everything that you've said. Everything that you're saying right now will determine how you're going to be in the future. I remember back when I was really in the flow of what we call the faith movement with like Fred Price and Kenneth Hagin and Kenneth Copeland. They talked a lot about the power of words, but it nearly became too religious. It was like legalism about positive confession. And I don't know if any of you were ever a part of that, but we got to where we can never even tell. I can remember going to visit, Pastor Tony knows. If I go to visit somebody in the hospital, what are you in for? I can't really say because by stripes I'm healed. Well, okay. You can at least tell me what the surgery is for. I'm not asking you to snare yourself with the words of your mouth. But now I've kind of come full circle, and things I've learned through quantum physics and powers of intention, I think, wow, you really do have what you say. And when Jesus said, speak to the mountain and believe that what you say will come to pass, he was tapping into something that scientists now are understanding, that every word has a vibration. Have you ever had somebody say something to you, and it wasn't what they said that affected you negatively, but there's something about, there was just a vibration on that word that left you feeling kind of yucky, and you couldn't explain it, and you tried to tell it to somebody else, and they thought you were just being petty or whatever, and you're like, no, I'm telling you, there was something. They said you look good, but, like sometimes people can insult you in a compliment. Oh, you got a new hairdo. Well, somebody like you could wear that kind of hair, I guess. And it's, but there's even something deeper than backhanded compliments. It's like there's a vibration on every word. Debbie and I used to go through this all the time because I would say, we'd go somewhere and I'd say, did you hear what that guy said to me? She said, what? I'd say, he said that. And she says, no, that's not what he meant. I said, no, I'm telling you. I heard what he said, but that's what he meant. And she used to say, you're just imagining that. Well, then later on, every time I would find some history with the guy, and sure enough, that was exactly what he meant. So, when somebody says, wow, you're too sensitive, I'm like, thank you. That's why I'm anointed. That's why I'm artistic. I'm happy to be sensitive. I'm very aware of what people say. I'm very aware of the vibration that's behind words. And it's not that I can't take it. Dear God, I've been cussed out and had so much hate mail from so many Christians. There's nothing you could say that's going to hurt my feelings. There's nothing you could say worse than what I haven't had in 1,000 letters. But what I'm saying is the world I live in now, I don't have time for that nonsense. And I make sure I surround myself with people who are going to speak into my life, because even as strong as I am still vulnerable to prophecy. I still need people to prophesy to me. I still, just like you need people to prophesy to you. Paul said, exhort one another. We should always be doing that. Anytime you say, oh, I'm not going to tell you that because you already know that, you're missing it. Because the Spirit is vibrating. The Word is now. God is the I am. They that come to God must believe that He is in the now. It never stops. Creation is still happening. I don't fully understand this, and I can only read so much about it before it starts really messing with my head. And I don't even know how they measure this. But scientists tell us that the universe is still expanding, and it's actually picking up pace. It's not just expanding, it's expanding at a faster rate. Exponentially. We are in a creative flow that is still happening. Last night, this group that I talked to is a largely, probably predominantly LGBT crowd. and I was telling them about, we were discussing this thing that's going on in Georgia right now where I think the Senate has already passed it, and it's about to go to the House, and they call it the religious liberty bill, but it's a religious way to discriminate against gay people is what it is. It's like with African Americans when you hear about the voting stuff, you're like, yeah, I think I know what that is. You know, I know you're calling it voter registration, but it's really, you know, weeding out minorities. I mean, it just is. And so, you know, people learn how to. One thing about racism and homophobia now, it's because it's so politically incorrect to be racist that people have found other ways to say it, and it's in some ways it's more insidious. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes you nearly would rather somebody just come out and say the N-word or the F-word or whatever, and at least you know where they're coming from, than them to, you know, come up with all these bills and, you know, all this kind of stuff where they know better than to actually say the word, but they're still saying the word. You know what I mean? Like some of the stuff that came out about the cops in Ferguson this week. Some people were shocked by it. Black people weren't shocked by it. They were like, tell me something I don't know. That's not news. That's just a confirmation of what we already knew. Anyway, I was telling them, I said, here's the deal. I said, they're going to probably pass this, and it's going to ultimately be a non-issue. One of my favorite quotes from Dr. King was, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice. Meaning, the creative force, the Word of God, is still moving in a forward way. Isaiah 46:10 says He declares the end from the beginning. Romans 4:17 says He quickens the dead and calls those things which are not as though they are. And so there are the immediate things around, or we could call chaos, that fight the Word, but ultimately the Word is not bound. Ultimately the Word does not return void. It prospers in the thing whereunto it is sent. So, and I'll say this one thing about this legislation, and then I'll get off of it. But, you know, a lot of this started with marriage equality around the country and certain ministers saying, I don't want to be forced to have to marry gay couples. To which I want to say, relax, dude. No gay couple wants some homophobic Bible thumper to marry him in the first place. So nobody's gonna. And furthermore, like I know with me, I'm not an activist, but if I know a place is decidedly anti-gay, I don't even want to spend my money there. It's like I don't tell other people not to, but I don't want to do business there. So it's like I said, it's going to be a non-issue, and it's. Bless Georgia's heart, they clearly are going to be the last ones to drag in on marriage equality, and they're going to fight till the very end, sort of like which state was the last one to observe Dr. King's birthday? Was it Arizona? And you know, after a while, when all 49 states observe it, it gets kind of awkward. You have to say, well, we're going to have to just kind of, it's called the United States of America. You know, that field of blue has 50 stars on it, which means all 50 of them are supposed to kind of go in the same direction. Don't you remember, you stand up in the mornings at school, pledge allegiance to the flag, one nation under God, indivisible. That's why when I see Southerners, God bless you, I love the South, but when I see Southern white people carrying the Confederate flag, I'm like, really? So you don't believe in the United States? Yes, I certainly do. Well, you know, the Confederacy was an anti-federacy. It was like, it was the divided states. See, now we're the United States. There was a man named Abraham Lincoln. You might want to look into it. We fought a big war. Lots of people were killed. States came back together. Field of blue on the flag has 50 stars now, all together. United. Well, I just have the Confederate flag because I like Georgia history. Really? What do you think about Oglethorpe? Who? Oh, yeah, that's what I thought. All right. I mean, Georgia's been here since the 1700s. The Confederacy was 4 years. I mean, if you're that much of a Georgia historian, you need to know some more stuff about history. I'm just saying, oh, well, look at me. I'm getting all controversial today. Haven't done that in a long time. Must be your fault, Jaquita. You're bringing this out of me. What? I was in a Waffle House one day and they were playing on the jukebox, the South's going to do it again. And everybody, it's even as a white man, it's kind of started freaking me out. People were like singing along. And I wanted to go, excuse me, the South's going to do what again? What exactly are you saying? You want another civil war? You want to bring back slavery? I mean, what exactly are we talking? Well, South's going to do it again. Do what? And I love the South. I think you should have grits with breakfast. And I ate turnip greens last night. I mean, I love the South. I want to tell all these Northerners that keep griping about the snow, move down south then. I mean, it's hot and humid here in the summer, and I don't complain about that. I put up with it because that's part of, I know I live closer to the equator than y'all do. I got to get back on task. All right. The point is, we are transforming chaos into cosmos. And the universe, the creative word, is still moving. How can I explain what I'm feeling in my spirit on this? It's like if you jump into a river and the current of the river is strong, you don't have to strive to move. Do you understand? You just connect with the current, and the current will move you. Creation is still going on. And saying is the Elohim, it is becoming light. Let there be light is still happening every day of your life. You don't have to strive over success and health and prosperity. You just have to find the current of the river and get in the river. This is why, remember a couple of months ago when I talked about prayer, when Paul said, if God be for us, who could be against us? Too many people are praying with the assumption that God's not for them. They're trying to convince God, please heal me, please do this. That's not the way it works. God is for you. The universe is for you. The world is for you. This is what I believe, even with, when I talk about stuff I've had with the religious people, that doesn't even bother me because I think the creative word will win even over religion. I mean, I know that I'm in the right flow. I know that history is on my side. I know that I'm moving in the right direction. I don't fret over people that don't get that. I want to connect with people that do get that and are going somewhere. Yesterday, we walked over the park, we rented bikes, and we were riding bikes on the Beltline. And it was interesting to me, when you're... you know what the Beltline is? It used to be the train tracks, and now they've paved it, and it's going to eventually circle the entire metro area. But there's like bikers, joggers, skateboarders, people with strollers, and when you're riding a bike, you got to really pay attention because on a day like yesterday, it was really crowded. So you're just weaving in and out of people. But what was interesting is every person that I passed, I would just pick up a snippet of their conversation. You'd be riding by, and this is what I kept hearing. And then she said, well, I tell you what kind of person she is. And I thought, every person I'm passing, everybody's talking about somebody else. And it's nearly all negative. It was like the gossip tour. Oh, wow, this is really interesting. What is that quote? Great people talk about ideas. There's a quote, I can't remember, I should have been prepared with that, but it's some people talk about, and small people talk about other people. The point is, there are many of us, we've already been there, done that. We've already anybody had drama with anybody? All right. Aren't you over talking about it? Do you know what I mean? After a while, don't you get tired of being sucked into that same vortex and going over, whether it's family members, whether it's whatever, you're like, what does it say? No, I can't. Yeah. Great. Good Lord, how do you read these small letters? Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. Yeah, that's it. And who said that? Oh, it was Eleanor Roosevelt. Thank you, Kenya. Yeah. And as I'm riding through, I thought, look at this beautiful day. All these people should be talking about great things. They should be, what I should be hearing is, oh my God, look at this beautiful day. Oh my God, the sun is shining. Oh, we're so blessed to be able to be out here on the Beltline in beautiful Atlanta walking. But what I heard is, I tell you, you can't tell her anything. Well, that's the way he always is. Just like everybody I would pass, I'm like, man, it's everywhere. The entire Beltline, it's like the gossip line. And we've all been in part of that too. But after a while, don't you want to put those childish things behind you and say, look, if you get me, fine. If you don't get me, fine. Jesus didn't obsess over that kind of thing. He would just tell people who he was, and if they got it, fine. If they didn't, fine. He would say, I know where I came from. I know where I'm going. You don't understand it because you're looking at me through a certain paradigm, but I know who I am, and eventually you'll all get it. Do you know the paradigm that Jesus has, whatever he is now? I mean, in the book of Revelation, he wasn't actually called Jesus anymore. He's called the Word of God. But the prophecy is, behold, he comes with clouds, and every eye will see him. That's what God already believes. Eventually, everybody will get this. Do you understand? If you could grasp that, you would stop 99% of the contention in your life, because you wouldn't have to argue with people anymore. You just say, you know what? I know you don't get this now, but eventually you will. In the meantime, I love you. I just don't have time to contend with you over all this nonsense, but I love you. I'm here. If you need something, give me a call, but I don't have time to get all up in this. And furthermore, to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. Jesus said to his disciples, go into a city, and if they get you, if they discern you, he said, give them everything you got. You heal the sick, cast out demons, all that. He said, if they don't get, that's going to be a good picture, BJ. That's going to be a blur. Here, let me get a better one like I'm going. Is that, you got it? All right, that's going to be a good one. Send me that one. Somebody act like I'm making an incredible point. Everybody raise your hands like it's some amazing thing. Like, those are some keepers right there. All right. Anyway. What was it saying? Yeah. He said if they don't receive you, he said shake the dust off your feet. In other words, stop wasting your time trying to convince people of your worth, because I promise you there are some people somewhere who are going to get it. And all you have to do is find those people and find the right time. Do you remember in school, did you ever try to get in somebody's clique? And when you finally got there, you're like, this wasn't all that. You know what I mean? I thought this was going to be great to make these people like me. And now, like, really? This is what I wanted? You're the clique. You're the trendsetter. You're the one that everybody should want to be like you. Why are you trying to fit in when you're meant to stand out? All right. Let me show you this before we go today. Oh, this whole thing about speaking the right words. Last night at the end of the meeting at Church of the Misfits, Terry closed out with, he led everybody in a rendering of the Lord's Prayer from the New Zealand prayer book. Now, some people say, well, no, the Lord's Prayer is, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. You do know Jesus was not a British man that lived in the 17th century. So he never said, thou art. Never one time came out of his mouth. Jesus spoke Aramaic. What I have also learned in the last few hours is that Aramaic isn't just Aramaic. There's Syrian Aramaic. There's first century Aramaic. It went through evolution like every language has. I mean, they have to update the dictionary every few years because there are words that are archaic. They mean different things. There's new words we have to enter into the lexicon. I remember... and this would be even more extreme now, but I remember my college graduating class had a 10-year reunion, and I went to it. And several of my friends that I went to school with, we all went out afterwards. And we were talking about, these are the things we were saying. Did you send me that picture? Yeah, I emailed it to you. Well, just text it to me. We were using all these words, and I stopped and said, do you realize 10 years ago, we wouldn't know what any of these words meant. Email, internet, text it to me, iPhone. And this was some years ago. I'm sure it would be even more extreme, different now. So they're having to invent new words to explain realities that we're already living in. The reason that's important is, and you know I love looking at the Aramaic, I love the Khabouris manuscript, but there were different dialects of Aramaic. And so I looked at, first of all, this New Zealand prayer, it came through a, I think the word is Maoric or Maotic text. It's whatever language they speak in New Zealand, this is how the Lord's Prayer was translated. I want to show you these because I want to help you find the vibrating word. All of these, I'm going to show you three versions of the Lord's Prayer. If it works for you, keep it. For me, these words stirred something deeply in me. I love Our Father which art in heaven. I mean, I do, anytime I do a funeral or whatever, I have everybody say it because it's something that everybody can relate to and they understand it. And so I'm not against the King James Version. But I also don't want to limit what Jesus was actually saying. Let me show you the Lord's Prayer. Before I do, this is why. I can tell you to transform chaos into cosmos, but until you find a vibrating word, you can't do it. This has been my experience over the years. If I can just get a word about something, I'll be fine. I mean, whatever your definition of hell is, I can walk through hell. If I've got a word that I know is out there before me or above me, I can deal with anything because I will keep my focus on that word. Like I'm walking toward that word. I'm remembering that prophecy. But if I don't get a word, I feel hopeless. Like with... I'm loath to say God said this, God said that, but I do have to say, all right, God, you're going to have to tell me, what do I do about this, or what do I think about this, or how do I handle this? And sometimes it doesn't come through my spirit. Sometimes it comes through somebody else. Sometimes it'll come through something I read. Sometimes it'll come through a lyric of a song. I'll just like, oh, there it is. Ooh. And I've talked to Avery. I've talked to some of you about this, about how revelation works. If I don't have a word, it's like I've never read the Bible. It's the craziest thing. Like if somebody says, well, just go preach. You've been doing it 43 years. If I don't have a word, if I don't feel the vibration on it, I'm looking at the Bible like, what is this? Like, I don't know. It's confusing to me. It doesn't make any sense. Then when I get the word, it's like, oh, there it opens up. It's like putting the key in the lock and you open it up. And until the word vibrates, I got nothing to say. This is why, it's not that I'm not a good conversationalist, but I think most of you, by this time, I'm assuming the people that have lasted with me all the way to the theater in Midtown, you must by now pretty well know me. And it's not that I'm not a nice person, but I think sometimes people think that one-on-one I'm going to talk the way I talk with a microphone, and it's a completely different thing. I'm not good at small talk. It's not that I'm not interested. I'm just not good at it. I don't know what to say. Now, you give me a word, I can talk all night long. And sometimes people expect me to be as funny and, whatever as I was when I had the microphone. I'm like, no, you just saw the best part. I'm done now. And it's not that I don't love you. It's like, I don't know what to say unless we get in some kind of zone of a conversation, something I may know about, but I don't know about a lot of stuff. Believe it or not. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Well, a lot of stuff that people are very interested in, I know nothing about. And I don't want to know. And sometimes they'll say, well, let me explain it to you. I'm like, no, I don't really care. And I don't want to insult you because I can tell that's important to you. But it's so not important to me. And the people who know me really well have learned, if I'm going to try to explain something to you, I see your hand. I got to explain it to you quick because I can see when you glaze over. We're like, I don't know about that. Well, I can explain it to you. Please don't. Because now what I know God, I know Holy Spirit, I know revelation. I'm interested, and it's not superior intellect by any stretch. It's a spiritual gift. It's like, oh, that's what I'm interested in. I want to talk about revelation. I'm saying that to say, I love the Lord's Prayer. I love the words of Jesus. I love the words in red. I probably love them now more than I ever have. I think the Gospels are important. I want to read every nuanced shade of meaning. I want to put that diamond up to the light and move it around and let the light catch every facet. Because sometimes there'll be just this one word. You get that one word, and that word changes everything. Jesus said, I will give you the keys, plural, of the kingdom. For the most part, the keys are words. What's the right word? Did y'all ever see Throw Mama from the Train? Remember that Billy Crystal? Well, you know, the story was he was a frustrated writer who was trying to write a novel, and he couldn't get past the first sentence, because the first sentence of a novel is very important. You know, Tale of Two Cities is, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. David Copperfield is I Am Born. It's like there's a... Moby Dick is Call Me Ishmael. It's like there's an opening line that becomes the thesis for the entire work. And he can't find the word. Remember the whole movie, he's like, the night was hot, the night was humid, the night was sweaty, and the whole thing, he can't find it. And in the final thing, you know, the mother, who's so horrible, she goes, the night was sultry, and he starts choking her because that was the perfect word, and he's so furious that she had the right word. I know exactly what he's talking about, because sometimes it's like, what's the word? The word, Proverbs says, a word fitly spoken is like apples of gold and settings of silver. I guarantee you, most people that are in love with somebody probably fell in love with them because of a thing they said. Like when you said that, like, oh, that was perfect. I also know relationships that have ended over a thing that was said. You know what? We were fine until you said that. And once you said that, we're done. I know what this, I remember when I was dating, I would, women or men, I can remember dating, and like somebody would say something, and I think, and we're done. I mean, like once you said that, I mean, I would just feel the light switch go off and like, check please, you know, I can't possibly get away from you quick enough, because now that you said that, because I believe out of the abundance of the heart the mouth speaks. And I think, well, if that's what you believe, then we got nothing. We got nothing to talk about. Yeah, I've told you this, but the first week that Ken and I met, Chandra was doing a Tyler Perry play at the Fox, and she invited us, gave us like best seats I've ever had at the Fox. I didn't know Ken that well, and he'd never been to the Fox, so I think it's like the third time we'd ever been out. And I said, Ken, now, you know who Tyler Perry is, right? And he said, yeah. I said, now, you know, it's possible we're going to be the only two white people in the entire Fox Theater. Are you aware of that? And he said, why are you telling me this? He said, do you think I'm like racist or something? I said, I don't know. It's just like up until now, you're too good to be true. And you are a white guy from small town Georgia, and it is in the realm of possibility, because I have been out with a few people who, you know, you're thinking, oh, this person's great, and then I tell you what's wrong with them, black, you know, like, oh, really? Well, this is never gonna work. I mean, I'm gonna, you know, and he's like, no, I love Tyler Perry. I'm like, I went to a integrated school, it was largely African American. I'm like, what's that? I said, okay, just checking. Because I didn't want to get you all the way down here to the front line, and you go, or the front row of the Fox Theater, you go, dear God, there's a lot of dark faces up in here, like, oh. Or worse. Because I've been in those situations where you're just assuming, surely this person is enlightened, and then you find out, oh God, no, they're not. And you think, well, then I can tell you we're not going to work because of this thing you said. Remember when the Canaanite woman came to Jesus, and she said, heal my daughter. And he said, you're not part of the covenant. And there's any number of ways you can interpret that. But that's not the point. The point is, he says, why should we give the bread to the dogs? And she said, well, even the dogs get the crumbs from the table. And he says, okay, for this saying, your daughter is made well. I don't know if he was testing her. I don't know. But the fact is, she passed a test. She could have been offended at that and moved away from Jesus. But, when your daughter's at home ripping the draperies off the living room wall, you're like, all right, let me try this. The dogs get the crumbs from the table. And he goes, all right, for this saying. Do you know everything in your life hinges on for this saying? You got the job probably because you said the right thing. Or you lost the job because of the thing you said. All right, let me show you this this is the New Zealand Book of Prayer, and it's an ancient text. This is how it's interpreted. Instead of our Father which art in heaven, it's eternal spirit, earth maker, pain bearer, life giver, source of all that is and shall be. Father and mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven. You say, that don't sound like our Father which art in heaven. Well, of course it wouldn't, because that was translated in Elizabethan English in a European context that was a patriarchal world. In this culture, father and mother are equal. You do know God is as female as he is male, as she is male. That bothers some people. They're like, Abba, Father. I know the Bible was written by men to men. In our world, how many women in here can read? Well, somebody ought to raise your hand. We have a program for you. The point is, when those texts were written in that culture, women didn't read. Well, now they read. And in this culture, there was the understanding, Father and mother of us all, loving God in whom is heaven. The hallowing of your name echo through the universe. The way of your justice be followed by the peoples of the world. Your heaven, this is thy kingdom come, thy will be done. Here it's, your heavenly will be done by all created beings. Your commonwealth of peace and freedom sustain our hope and come on earth. Isn't that awesome? Give us this bread. Give us this day our daily bread. Here it's, with the bread we need for today, feed us. Forgive us our debts as we forgive those. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. What? That may be the best understanding of do unto others as you would have them do unto you as I've ever heard. It's saying, forgive me for the hurts I've absorbed from other people. My God. Do you understand why it's so important to dig into language and say, I appreciate our Father which art in heaven, but there may be more there. In the hurts we absorb from one another, forgive us. In times of temptation and testing, strengthen us. I remember when we were in Covington, Wellington came to me and he said, I have a problem with the Lord's Prayer. Why would Jesus say, lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, if God is good? I said, that's not what he was saying. He wasn't saying he wasn't asking God not to make evil happen to us. He was saying, keep me from the time of my testing, is what he was saying. But see, that's when something gets translated from one language to another, that's what you get. It says, from trials too great to endure, spare us. From the grip of all that is evil, free us. For you reign in the glory of the power that is love, now and forever. Amen. Isn't that amazing? All right. So I go home last night and I'm looking this up, and it taps me into this one translation from Aramaic, which is the language that Jesus spoke. Jesus spoke first century Aramaic. This is what it says, the retranslation from the Aramaic. O breathing life, your name shines everywhere. Release a space to plant your presence here. Imagine your possibilities now. What? I nearly threw that computer out the window last night when I read that. I was like, imagine your possibilities now. What? Embody your desire in every light and form. Grow through us this moment's bread and wisdom. Are y'all getting that? Isn't there a little more there than give us this day our daily bread? Grow through us this moment's bread and wisdom. Untie the knots of failure binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' faults. People, I want to tell you, when I read that last night, I felt something change inside me. It moved something in my inner man to read that because it's the understanding. Go back to that previous screen, please. I want to show that to you one more time. Embody your desire in every light and form. Grow through us this moment's bread and wisdom. Untie the knots of failure binding us as we release the strands we hold of others' faults. All right. Help us not forget our source, yet free us from not being in the present. From you arises every vision, power, and song from gathering to gathering. Amen. May our future actions grow from here. But it gets better. So I'm doing this study last night, and I think, well, Aramaic's not all Aramaic. I mean, just like in English, we've got the New American Standard and the New International Version and the Amplified Bible and the Living Translation, and they all say kind of the same things, but sometimes there'll be just a nuanced change or whatever, and it will release something. All right, now this one I'm going to show you actually shows some of the Aramaic words. This is the prayer to our Father translated into first century Aramaic. All right, that word, that's the Aramaic word, and this is how it's translated. O thou from whom the breath of life comes, who fills all realms of sound, light, and vibration. Look, vibration isn't some new age word that Deepak Chopra came up with. That's an ancient, timeless word that was in the original Hebrew. And saying is the Elohim, the vibrate, the Elohim, the word is vibrating. May your light be experienced in my utmost holiness. Your heavenly domain approaches. That's let your kingdom come. Your heavenly domain approaches. What? Let your will come true in the universe, all that vibrates, just as on earth that is material and dense. Do you realize in the first century, those people didn't know what quantum physics was? The scientists come along now and are confirming everything that these ancient texts said. Give us wisdom, understanding, assistance for our daily need. Detach the fetters of faults that bind us, which is karma. I didn't put that word in there. That word was in there. Like we let go the guilt of others. You know, look, can I just say this? And I will confess a fault to you. There is something in my life right now that I'm trying to walk through on this very thing. But Wayne Dyer says, what somebody does to you is their karma. The way you respond is your karma. And I know that's true, but I can tell you there's an effort to walk in it. You know, because for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And I'm in a situation right now where I'm just having to let my soft answer turn away wrath because I don't know the right way to respond to it. So I haven't responded at all. But I'm only saying that to you because I need you to know, I need you to help me pray through it. I want to help you pray through your things. I don't want to give you details about it. I want to say, we drive over here every Sunday to encamp around this fire and warm our hands to it and look at each other's face with the glow and reflection of that fire and walk away with heat and warmth to take into our cold environment. So in the spirit, I need you to join hands. I need you to know that I'm thinking about you. I care about you. I care about what you're going through. We don't have to talk about it all the time, but I want you to know I'm aware of it. And when I say things like stay strong, I mean it. I mean, I can only sit outside the garden and wait with you. You're going to have to go into Gethsemane and you're going to have to pray it through, like I'm going to have to pray through mine. Y'all hearing me? Y'all feeling me? All right. Detach the fetters of faults that bind us. Go back. I want to look at that one more time. Karma, like we let go the guilt of others. Let us not be lost in superficial things, materialism, common temptations. But let us be freed from that what keeps us off from our true purpose. From you comes the all-working will, the lively strength to act, the song that beautifies all and renews itself from age to age. Amen. Sealed in trust, faith, and truth, I confirm with my entire being. Okay, that's all of it. I don't know if any of that worked for you, but a large portion of all three of those prayers have a very strong vibration for me. You can't will things to change. You have to speak them to change. You have to talk to it. What shall we then say to these things? These things that come at us. We have to be reminded. Speak to your mountain. The mountain doesn't go into the sea all in one fell swoop. Sometimes it goes down rock by rock. You know what I've been meditating on this week, and I'll close with this. In talking about this, I think, what's the deal? I don't believe it was 6 24-hour periods in which God created, but I'm still trying to understand, why did it come in succession? Why did he do something on one day, and then the next day was something else, and the next day was something else, and the next day was something else, and then on the seventh day he rests? I don't believe that he got tired. So what's going on there? I'm thinking what it means is that everything's a progression, and that creation doesn't happen all at once. Things aren't taken away all at once. Things aren't brought in all at once. It goes back to that whole thing about movement and ebb and flow. Every time we're going to drive out of town a couple of days this week, and hopefully can walk over to the beach a little bit. It's going to be too cold to get in the water, but I love to look at the surf come in and out, in and out. It's just, there's something, it speaks to my spirit in a way that my mind doesn't comprehend. It tells me things. We're made out of water. Once in a while, you're supposed to go, if it's whether a river or a swimming pool or something, there's something in you that makes you want to sit by water and look at it because it says something to you, something elemental. There's something therapeutic about it. A waterfall. What people are walking through woods trying to find waterfalls because water says something to us. The spirit is vibrating over the chaotic waters. I speak all of these words to you. I wash you with the word. I wash you with the Lord's Prayer. I wash you with the creative, vibrating word. Let's all stand. Be well, be whole, be strong, be healed, be happy, be beautiful, be attractive, be well, be successful, be smart. You are all of those things. You are blessed. You are holy. You are accepted. You are worthy. You are forgiven. Blessings on all of you. Blessings on all of you. Can you just, for a moment while those words are just hovering over, just lift your hands up and make contact with it? I just speak the creative word of God to all of you. I speak a healing word to all of you. He's saying today about the woman who said, if I touch the hem of his garment, I'll be made well. She had no scripture for that. She completely invented that. That was her creation. You can find your unique word right now, right now, right now, right now. Thank you, Lord. God sees you. God knows. God is aware of your situation. You are not alone. God knows what needs to change. We speak change into the atmosphere where it needs to take place. As the seasons change, we welcome what needs to change in our thoughts, in our words, in our relationships. We welcome movement. We welcome the current. Let the river flow. Let the river run. Wow. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Let all that is within me bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Let all that is within me bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. Let all that is within me bless his holy name. Let all that is within me bless his holy name. For I know where the treasure is buried. It is written, with joy you shall draw water out of the wells of salvation. There is a map to where the treasure is that is inscribed upon your heart. Trust my word, my voice, my instincts. Trust the candle of the Lord that is your spirit to show you where the treasure is. Take no thought of what you're going to eat or what you're going to wear or what you're going to put on. Your Father knows what you have need of even before you ask. But there is buried treasure, and it has your name on it. Seek and you will find. Knock and it will be open to you. Ask and you will receive. For the very word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. Do you not see there is a key under your tongue? If you speak it out, the vault is opening, and you are walking into a large place. The proverbial land that flows with milk and honey is yours, and it's not hard to reach. The treasure is yours, and ultimately it is buried inside you. You have the pearl of great price. Bring it forth and let that light shine for all the world to see. says grace. Amen. If any of that is for you, any part of that is for you, just receive it. Wow. God is great. Amen. All right. We didn't do the opening video. I'm not going to do the closing video. You know what to do. I know somebody made a contribution toward another camera this week, and I really appreciate that. I know you guys made a contribution to a camera, and we used that money for the switcher, which may not be, everything's going to be up and running by next week. We've just hired Comcast to make sure we've got 100% connection all the time, and we've got the money to pay for it because of your faithfulness. So thank you very much. Somebody also made a contribution for T-shirts so we can have METRON put on it, so that's great. So obviously I don't have to yell at you about giving. We are prosperous. I am prosperous. I am blessed. You are blessed. There is more than enough. We got stuff to send St. Jude, and that doesn't mean call me to not ask me to pay your bills. That's not what I'm saying. Although we have helped somebody this week, but that's you know what to do about that. That's none of your business. Thank you. But we are prosperous, and you are prosperous. If you have a check today, make it JESM, and they'll be back in. I think Gloria's back there for you today. If you need to text it, if you don't know how to do it, talk to Avery. She can walk you through it. It's so easy. Once you get set up, you're going to love it. It's just such a great way to do it. If you have cash, pay it forward, take somebody to lunch, or give it to me or whatever. We'll take it on vacation with us. But give it to one of these homeless people out here. Crackheads need love too, and they do. And there's plenty of them around here, believe me. But you're going to have a beautiful week. Something good happened here today, more than you even realize it. I love you so much. Peace.